Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm bringing a heart to heart, and I've been wanting to do this for such a long time now, and I didn't rush into it because I wanted it to be done in the best way possible, given that it's a deep topic and it's something that unfortunately we see a lot. I think that's what led me to wanting to do this because every so often on my feed I'll see news like somebody took their life, and here, y'all know that I live in a border city where we have a bridge, and you hear news about people, going out there and ending their lives. There's even been deportees in this situation that have felt like it's better to take the easy way out than having to face this brand new life that we do out here. And it's so unfortunate, but it's so real and it happens so much. So I think that because I bring content on deportation and just, what somebody was saying, one of the comments that I got, I think it was yesterday, this new subscriber, and she was saying something like, Annie, speak on everything else, because I think we all connect with others through similar circumstances, whether it be not just deportation, but anything, period. And honestly, the purpose of even coming here and being brave enough to talk about this, because like I said, it's something deep. It's not something you just walk around telling people like, hey, this is what's going on in my mind. It's shameful. It's embarrassing. I felt like that. I think that's why so many people suffer in silence. That they don't just go out there and tell people like, hey, that's not something that you do, so. But I find it so useful that I'm able to come here now, and that I've walked this journey. I've experienced a lot of these things for so long, and I've come to a point where I can finally say that I'm better is huge to me, and I want to be able to share that. And I think that's where it gets to with all this. There really is a purpose. Everything we go through, whether it seem unfair or not, it has a purpose. And I hope that this message today and me opening up my heart to you can help you understand that, because life is very much worth living. Believe me, coming from a person as myself, that it's something that I've dealt with for many years, and it's something that has threatened my life, and it all starts with our feelings, and something that has to be dealt with, because we have to know why we're feeling this way. I hope that you can stick around to just hearing all about this. So it all just goes back to when I was a young girl. I remember, as many of you know, I've shared a little bit of my childhood before, and I think we all have it bad somehow, right? One way or another. Nothing is ever perfect, but there were certain things that led me to feeling this way when I was a young girl, and maybe because I didn't know how to communicate that and tell my parents like, hey, I'm feeling this way. I never learned how to manage it. So I think that was the deal with me. I didn't express it, and it just kind of grew and grew and grew, right? And by the time you know it, I was feeling pretty. I remember feeling pretty hopeless when I was around 11, and my family was falling apart. And I think because of course so much goes on, and there's people, our parents are dealing with all these emotions. We don't really stop to think about our kids, even when there's nothing big going on. It could be something like you being busy all day at work and trying to just stay afloat and pay the rent, the bills, or whatever it is that you got going on, so I think that's pretty much what happened in my case. And by the time I was around, I don't know, 15, I had a suicide attempt, and at the time I was not staying at home because of circumstances, and I felt very much alone. And I remember it was pretty much a shock to everyone, but at the same time it felt like an inconvenience, stuff like that. It's like your parents have to take time off work and then go see what's going on, and they're already trying to be out here surviving, or whatever it was that they had going on, at the time it didn't seem as important. And I think their response to that was what led me to it created like a deep wound in me. Maybe it wasn't like that, but that's how I took it at the time. because everybody does things for different reasons. I can't say why things worked out that way or why things happened that way. But as far as how I was feeling, I felt like, I was feeling even worse afterwards, for having caused trouble. I felt like that. And deeper shame because I didn't know how to manage these emotions. And I think that's where that root started, of you look around you and you realize that not everybody feels this deep as you. You see everybody having problems, but you're like, why do I feel so much disappointment and all this pain and all this and that if we all seem to somehow one way or another have troubles? Why can't I manage this? Like, why do I feel like that sadness overpowers me? And now that I'm a grown woman and I know myself and I've come around to realizing who God has made me to be, now I know that I'm a sensitive person and that some people feel certain things more than others in a more intense way, or maybe less, or take things differently. And I think that's just part of God's divine way of doing things. Like, he made people different and it's supposed to be like that. But I think because, again, there was no one there to really help me understand myself and these feelings and how to deal with them, I kind of just went through life like it's kind of like I was carrying this like big bag of disappointment and pain from people. And those wounds just kept getting bigger and bigger. My self-esteem was just, and this was all before I got caught up, and the reason why I even got deported and all that. This is way before then. I just didn't even know what was going on at the time. And I think, young girls go through so much. I don't have daughters, but maybe it's different. I don't know. But I think as young women, you really need, at least I'm the oldest, so I didn't have an older sister to kind of just guide me through things. And so I just navigated through a lot of these things on my own or from friends or whatever. So having all of these emotions going on, I think, maybe not even a year later, I have another suicide attempt. And this time I don't even remember how it happened. I just kept feeling lonelier, nobody was really looking over to see what was going on, and I think I was looking through these TikToks the other day, and my sister has, she sent me these, and they're kind of funny because they show like the Mexican parents, and then this young girl saying how she's going through all these mental health problems or whatever, and the parents are just like, girl, no. It's kind of just culture, it's like a cultural thing. This is not like to shame our parents, or anything like that. I think it's just something that it's not talked about enough. And that's why I'm here, because maybe you really have no one to talk to about this. Maybe, you're probably a wife, you're probably a mom. That's where I want to get to with this, because it's so important that I tell you how and when it started, because this might help you as a mom, as a grown woman, as myself, maybe, go back and look and see where it all started, because it's only then when we can go back and really just walk ourselves through all these things that we maybe even learned the wrong way, that leads us to constantly fall into this state of depression, because it didn't stop there. It started there, and it just kept getting deeper and worse, to the point where I carried so much shame. I felt so weak because I just didn't have the guts to face life. I felt so weak because everyone around me seemed so strong and so sure of themselves, and just carry all this confidence around, and that wasn't me. I couldn't do that, and so because I started feeling different, I think that it just led me to a constant self-rejection and just isolation. And because I viewed myself in this way, I think people perceived me in a certain way, and it led them to treat me a certain way. So it just, one bad thing led to another. And I think, it takes a lot to accept these things, because when we're young girls, we let a lot of people step over us, or we let a lot of situations. We have no boundaries. We don't know how to keep our peace. We don't know how to have healthy relationships. We don't know how to connect with people, right? Like, maybe, maybe this is one of those things that people just learn. But I think that it's good to be walked through these things, because you just go through life. I see, like, and you expose yourself to so many situations, and then by the time you're grown enough to want to change things, people are like tripping, like, why is she trying to do this, because for so long you allowed these things. And again, it all comes from a place. It's all a chain. Like, it all started somewhere that led you to something that led to a certain behavior because of a certain feeling, and now you're struggling with these things. So I lived like that for so long. And then after kind of just trying to put myself back together to going to school and just kind of feeling better, after all that happened, I ended up that same year I had that suicide attempt. I ended my year right, and I finished school early. I enrolled in college, and things were going great. And I get caught up, in this situation in which everybody knows why I'm here now, right? So imagine already struggling with all these things, and then all of a sudden you're facing time, you're facing all these years, you don't know what's gonna happen, and you're kind of just like, dang, and that depression and everything that you were feeling before. Just a year before, I'd been battling all these thoughts and trying to recover after, all that, because it really takes a lot. Like, it takes a lot to come back to feeling yourself and to even coming to accomplish things. If you're a person that's been through a suicide attempt like that, and I was going through all this, just navigating all of this on my own, and it was hard. It's hard because you don't feel understood. You feel everything but understood. People kind of even take it as, dang, she's over exaggerating, she just wants attention. And I got told all those things, but it wasn't that. It was just I was feeling so much. Man, this is why it's so important to check up on our kids. You know what I mean? Really just like listen to them, really pay attention to what's going on. Sometimes we feel like just because we provide for them, then it's all good. That's all they need. They got everything they need. You out there bust your butt, trying to put food on the table, trying to keep the lights on, trying to do this, pay for colegiaturas and all this money, and if it's not one thing, it's another, and we do all these things and they're all great, but how many of these things are they not handling on their own? Are they not living in their own little head because maybe they see you so busy they don't want to talk to you about it? So when we see teens, because if we even go to that, like teen suicide, how many of our kids are out there taking their lives, man? Young kids, young girls, even young moms, young dads. Shoot, I mean, it's been bad out here. It's been really bad out here, just in my city in Laredo. And it's such a shame. And I think, again, because it starts with something small that we allowed to get big, and then by the time we know it, it just took over, and you're like, dang, how do I get myself back up? And it takes so much courage. That's why, maybe you don't deal with these feelings, maybe somebody else that does, but be there for that person. Really listen, and just honestly pray, pray that God gives you that strength and guides you, because at the end of the day, we need that light. So fast forward to after everything, if you've seen my story times, after everything that happened with me getting caught up again, and just all that, I come back, I get settled in Mexico, and I start trying to do right, and just being a wife, and I start this new life. I get married, I start being a stay-at-home mom with my kids, and things just changed for the better, but it didn't entirely go away. It was still something that I faced, and I think that shame grew even worse, because now I was like a church person, and church people ain't supposed to deal with these things, because don't you have God? Why would you feel this way? And it's such a terrible way of thinking, because even through articles and stuff like that, there's been pastors that have committed suicide. There's been people of faith, that you would say, right, they're deeply connected. Like, how could that even be? Because because of that shame of speaking to people about how you really truly feel, and not allowing us to feel the way that we do. So all this takes you to dealing with things on your own. So I felt bad because I was a faith person and I was not supposed to be feeling this way, and I was also feeling bad because I was a mom, and how could I be having these thoughts of not wanting to live if I'm a mom? Like, dang, what a shame. Like, how could I be feeling like this, And even worse, I wasn't gonna sit there, having a little, coffee date with a friend, telling her, hey man, like, saying something like, hey man, I'm feeling a certain way. I feel helpless. I feel hopeless or something. Like, it was hard. So because I started shoving all these feelings in, I started having really bad breakdowns. Like, really bad breakdowns. And I'm talking like years of just building up all these bad hurts, pain, and bad experiences and feelings and all kinds of stuff. And it just came to a point where, a few years ago, maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, I started having type of, like, it was kind of like nervous. I would have like nervous breakdowns, straight up. I would cry bad. Like, I would want to just pull my hair out, scream, run like a wild person outside. Like, it was so bad. And it was a really challenging time in my marriage because my husband, he's I feel like it was really hard on both of us because the people around you don't know what to do. They really don't know what to do, and they love you, and they're just there, and it hurts. Like, they hurt with you, and that's why again, we could avoid all these things if we deal with them when things happen. Like, not let them grow, because qué necesidad, you know what I'm saying? Like, qué necesidad que yo me sintiera así, and me be dealing with all these things, being a mom, being a wife, as a woman, we hold it down. Like, we hold it down. We're the ones that hold it down, at the house. That's, if we're okay, or everything's gonna work. That's just how it is. Like, we run the household, everything is babe and mom. That's just how it is, and going through all these things was so shameful because now my kids have to hear my mom crying in the middle of the night, and they don't know why, and they don't know what's going on, and they don't know what's going on. So now you have to deal with that too, and then add to all that, now that you have all these responsibilities, and especially if you're a working mom and you're also doing all these things, because husbands, they're wonderful. We love them. They're great. But we still carry a lot of that, mom burden, just period, I remember just crying bad. Like, God, I don't want to do this anymore. Life is a struggle and pain, like Zero said. Because we're gonna feel like that. Elijah felt like that when he was in the cave hiding. He's like, God, please take me. I don't want to live no more. He's like, I don't want to live no more. I don't want to struggle like this no more. Please. He's like, please end this. He was just tired, and God didn't come down and say, how dare you, hate life. He didn't make him feel bad. He was just like, yo, you need to eat and take a nap. And that's how you don't deal with these things. You start living like year after year after. You ever met like people that have, like, life is just like not even in them anymore, and they kind of just live because they have to live. I went through periods like that. So all these years later, I feel like I came to understand, I believe that it's by God's wisdom, only and truly by God's wisdom, because I could have never done this on my own. Like, really, I think He knows our hearts and He knows what we need. And I think one of the things, because it wasn't just the one thing that helped me finally understand things. It was a few things, and one of those things was that the first thing that I felt like God really just started working with me was in healing from a lot of these things, and learning how to let go and learning how to accept certain things. And I think when you learn to accept the good and the bad, He then leads you to understand that all of that pain and all of that suffering and all these things that you went through, to not carry them, but to use them to build this new you. And he's building the strong you, and he's revealing to you at the same time who you are in him and why we're created and what your purpose is. And ultimately, it's not even about us. When you start renewing your mind to a lot of these feelings that you're feeling, and how you're seeing things, how you see things, instead of, you know, being just a slave to the past, use it to benefit your future and to, you know, rise up and do better. You know, it's really all on us. You have to be careful what we're hearing, what we're seeing, who we're listening to, who and what we're giving our time to. Be vigilant. Of suffering is something that makes us who we are, and suffering is what allows us to connect with others in their pain, in their sorrow, in their bad days, in their whatever, even shame that you're feeling. You could use it to be a blessing to others, because ultimately that's what it's about. And we're here because others need us. And I can promise you right now, somebody needs you. Somebody needs you. Like, I don't care if it's, you know what, maybe it's even your pets. Maybe it's your neighbor. Maybe it's, you know, the lady at the grocery store that you say hi to every morning. Maybe it's, you know, a friend, or maybe it's, you know, a grandparent. Somebody in this world needs you. You know, somebody. I think when we understand that when we look a little beyond ourselves, when we look beyond our own pain and our own, you know, everything, I think it's when we realize that it's worth living. And little by little, by, you know, working through all these things, I highly suggest, really, like for real, to talk to someone. You know, there's so much help online here in Laredo. There's free resources. There's free resources all over Mexico too, that you can just Google DIF in your area, and you'll find a lot of help for this. Someone to talk to. And my hopes for you are that you learn how to manage a lot of these emotions, that you learn how to deal with these things, because sometimes we are just more sensitive. You know, sometimes we feel a little deeper, or we take things a little more into heart. A lot of the times it's also like thought patterns. You know, we have to renew our mindset to a lot of things, the way we see people, the way we see things, the way we see ourselves. You know, love ourselves for who we are. We're not gonna be like everybody else. You know, if that's what you feel like is taking you to being in a depressive state like that, you know, then start there. You know, start by accepting yourself and loving yourself, even if you feel, you know, like, even if you don't feel like this strong, empowered person. Because I think now, you know, nowadays, especially with social media and everything, we have to keep this front, like, you know, everything's good and all this, and then it's not like that. You know, life is hard. You know, we have daily bad struggles, you know. And I talk about this with family members sometimes. Like, life is never going to be easy. It's never going to be fair, and it sucks. And I think, you know, realizing that really just helps us understand that life is never going to be easy. It's always it's like you finish dealing with one thing and then something else pops up. So, you know, for me, it was just really like learning how to regulate and be like, all right, you know, we're going to be all right. If I could just take one step at a time. Am I going to have bad days? Yes, I am going to have them. But after having found peace with a lot of things, now I don't have to add on to that. I'll just deal with one thing at a time, you know. And it's worked to the point where now I don't have these like terrible breakdowns. I thank God that He gave me the courage to deal with these things, and I'm still dealing with a lot of these things. I'm still growing. I think we never stop growing. And I think that in life, you never reach a perfect place where, you know, life is going to keep happening. You're going to keep, you know, going through disappointments. But all that changed now. Me, you know, really just working a lot of these things, didn't just help me deal with a lot of these suicidal thoughts, but it led me to also learning how to connect with people, because when you deal with depression for so long, you naturally isolate yourself when you have all these perception of yourself, with a low self-esteem, that takes you to isolate and all that, and not really connect with people. Once you start moving forward from feeling this way, you have to learn how to connect with people again. You have to socialize and stuff like that. And that it took me a long time, long time, and to have friendships again, to learn how to trust again, to be myself, to allow myself to be myself. And even to being here all these years later, sharing with you. I would have never done something like this ever, especially during the years when I was going to church, because I had an image to keep. Like, you couldn't, only the people close to me knew how I was feeling. And then, years later, I just started getting vocal about it. I think I just started finding the courage to share how I felt. And I was able to encourage a lot of people when they felt this way, because I think it's in vulnerability that we, find our purpose and find our, when we're able to really connect and make a change for others. So I hope that with all this and my experience in finally overcoming these things, can help you navigate through life a little easier. And you know what? Just take it one day at a time. When you're feeling really overwhelmed, because some of us are just like that. Honestly, if you can, even take things off your plate. Like, if there's even thoughts, like when I tell you, like, really just watch your thoughts, man, really just watch your thoughts. Because it's worked for me for a long time now. It's something that's helped. Like, I remember some years back reading a book on this, like the battlefield of the mind, and how the enemy's like always, there's always good and bad thoughts. We're always gonna have good and bad thoughts, on a daily. It's like something you have to constantly choose, because honestly, if we don't, it'll be hard for anybody to get us out of there if we don't do this, if we don't give that first step. So it is a daily battle. It is a daily thing that we have to be dealing with, and we have to be choosing to be better, and to think better, and to connect better. And it's just a whole process, but it's definitely worth it. I pray that if you are listening to me, and if you've been feeling like this, if you've been feeling, any type of just devastating feeling, I pray that, you deal with these thoughts and these things that led you to feeling this way, because you didn't just one day wake up and felt like this. Maybe, if it's like a biological thing or something just is going on, or maybe, there's different situations. There's postpartum depression, there's all these other types of depression, and reasons why people deal with these feelings. But if it's something like similar to what I'm telling you, and how, my experience with it, and being something that was just building up over the years, and that led you to even have the life that you are living now. Maybe you're not living like you wish you were. Maybe you're not really just happy. Maybe you struggle more than you enjoy life. That's when it's time to make changes. That's when it's time to seek help, real help. So, because life is short, and if not only that, but and especially if you're a woman, if you're a mom, or not even that, if people around you again that need you, we need to be there for others. We need to be there for them. We need to be strong for them. It's a lot depends on us, and what are we teaching them? What are we I worry about that. I worry about that, of that I wish my kids would see me like, dang, my mom really, she thugged it out. She never gave up. I don't want, now that I think clear, I'm like, dang, it would hurt so much for them to one day be like, you know, dang, my mom couldn't handle life. She wasn't strong enough to write it out, and she had to do that. So that's the example that I'm going to leave for my kids. You know, I don't want that. You know, I want them to, you know, when I'm gone, because God calls me home, I want them to be like, wow, you know, my mom really, she fought it out, and no matter how she felt, you know, one day at a time, one day at a time, just take one day at a time, and for sure God will give you the strength to keep going. So I just wanted to say that. I wanted to share that. I hope that this is of help to you. I hope that you find the courage every single day, even if it's just one little thing, even if it's just one small thing that, you know, you do differently. Sometimes you need to get away from situations, or get away from people, or set boundaries, or, you know, in this process of healing, you're going to learn a lot of those things, and people are not going to follow you there, and you're probably going to step on some toes, and that's probably how it's going to be. But again, if it's a depression that because of something that's going on, or something that's been going on for a long time, you know, you're finally going to do something about it, then some people are not going to be okay with that. But it's necessary for you to be in a healthy place, and you can be the best version of yourself, for yourself and for those that love you and need you. So we need you on this earth. So we need you to stick around, and we need you. And I think everybody around you can say that. Sometimes we feel like people don't love us, or people are just hard to express their love sometimes. They have a hard time expressing their love. But you can rest assured, I can promise you that you can think of one person. And if you can't think of one person that you feel like loves you or understands you, well, you have us, and you have God, and people out there that are willing to hear you out and try to understand you and help you out. So just never give up. I'm going to end this here, you guys. I hope that you guys have a blessed night, and that bueno, no puedo decir night porque qué tal si lo ven en la mañana. I hope you guys have a blessed day, a blessed week, and I'll be back soon with another story time and with another heart to heart. You guys stay blessed. Bye.